Therapy changed my life by making me aware of three aspects of myself. One, that I had an anxious attachment style. Two, that I had a negative relationship with my body image. And three, that I was a parentified child. So let me start out by telling you about my anxious attachment style. My therapist found out about this after I came to her a couple of times with the same struggles that I was having in my relationship. For example, if I felt ignored by my partner or felt like I wasn't getting the attention that I wanted, I would ignore my partner because I wanted her to feel like the same exact way that I did, which would tell her that that's what I needed and that she needed to pay more attention to me. And when I told that to my therapist, she realized that I was exhibiting what is called in psychology a protest behavior, which is what an anxious person in a relationship does in order to get the attention that they feel that they want. So once she found out that I had an anxious attachment style, she actually recommended a book to me that I have right here that's called Attached by Amir Levine. And in this book, he talks about the three main attachment styles, which are anxious, avoidant, and secure, and how they kind of all coexist with each other, and how often we find ourselves in anxious avoidant relationships, which is the relationship that I'm in. But I thought it was amazing because it, for one, made me aware of my partner's avoidant attachment style. It made me aware of my anxious attachment style. And it also made me aware of how the two can coexist and how, as long as we knew our triggers and the way that we protested to get the behaviors that we wanted or the attention that we wanted, that we could make a relationship work. And so this book absolutely changed my life and changed my relationship with my partner and with myself. The second thing that I learned was that I had a negative relationship with my body image. Now this came across because I was overweight when I was a child, and I didn't want to be overweight. I wanted to better myself. And I did. Eventually, I lost about 50 pounds in 3 years, and I was in the best shape of my life. Once I got into a relationship with my partner, I started feeling like the only reason that I was loved was because I was good looking and that I had a nice body. Like, not the best body, but I had a good body. And I think this is a very common thing that a lot of young men experience in their lives, is thinking that all these really fit models and fit movie stars is the actual body type that we're meant to have, and that we'll only be loved and accepted if we look that way. And I, for one, did have that mentality. I felt like the only reason I was being loved and the only reason my partner wanted to be with me was because I was good looking and that I had a really nice body type. And so what started out as a healthy habit of going to work out, running often, working out like 1 to 2 hours every single day, turned into this very negative spiraling behavior of me thinking that if I didn't become super muscular, if I didn't have a six-pack, if I didn't work out 2 to 3 hours a day, that I was going to lose all the relationships in my life. And so I started hurting myself when it came to working out. I work out way too hard. I wouldn't give myself enough rest. And once I told my therapist about this, she realized that I was just putting so much pressure on my body image instead of the person that I was and the person that my partner actually loved, and that I needed to cut back on the time that I was spending at the gym. And so I did. Eventually, I actually did not go for about a month so that I could relearn the good habit of going to work out just to work out and to feel good, not necessarily that if I didn't work out, I wasn't going to be a good partner. And it took a lot of work. Even to this day, I still sometimes feel like I need to be working out harder. I need to be working out harder. But it's a lot easier because my partner reassures me that it's not my body image, but the person that I am that she is in love with. And so now it's a lot easier when I fall into that trap of thinking that, oh, I don't look nice, like she's gonna leave me or something like that. I know that that's not the case, and that working out is just a healthy habit that I have in my life, but it doesn't define me. And my body, the way that it looks, does not define me as well. And the third, and probably the biggest thing that I learned, was that I'm a parentified child. Now, this in particular came to mind when I kept talking to my therapist about how I felt like when other people talked about the things they did as a kid and the things that they loved doing as a kid, they could very vividly remember it. And when they came back to it as an adult, they could categorize and say like, oh, I loved writing as a kid. I loved building things with Legos as a kid. I loved working with my dad and stuff like that. I didn't have a lot of those key things, and I often felt like I couldn't really remember my childhood. I would often describe myself as a kid as someone who just played video games, and that was basically it. And I realized once my therapist started talking to me about this that I spent most of my childhood helping my parents out. Like, my parents were immigrants to the country that didn't speak English for the majority of my childhood, and they worked 2 jobs through the majority of my childhood. They still work 2 jobs. And so a lot of my responsibilities at home were basically to go to school, come home and like take care of my grandma, my aunt, and like my brother and my sister. And a lot of the times when I tried to figure out like what my passions were, what interested me, aside from the things that I set myself out to do, I couldn't really pinpoint those things. A lot of the people that gave that advice said to look at your childhood, look at the things you enjoyed doing as a child. And I couldn't really pinpoint that. And this like fogginess around my childhood was one of the key things and one of the key characteristics of being a parentified child. And when I talked about this in therapy, I was able to figure out that being a parentified child meant that a lot of my childhood was kind of lost, and I didn't get to do a lot of the kid exploring things that a lot of other kids in their childhood got to do. And so once I figured that out, I was kind of able to mourn the fact that I didn't have a normal childhood like other people, and that I could now as an adult with a lot more freedom explore my interests, but that I needed to be less judgmental of the fact that I didn't have that freedom as a kid, and that I have to be very kid-like in my exploration nowadays so that I can freely explore my interests and figure out what I want to do with my life without necessarily feeling like I have to have it all figured out. So yeah, those were the main things that I figured out from going to therapy for 2 years. If you want to get to know me a little bit better, you can check out this Q&A video right here. And if you want to hear about my experiences working as an Amazon software engineer, like my internship experience and stuff like that, you can check out this playlist right over there.